30 p.m. only.
We're glad to have you back. Well, interesting discussion on the first half of the show, but let's get talking now. More interesting conversation in a bid to achieve economic growth and developmental pathways in the country. The federal government of Nigeria continues to engender more efforts to ensuring the ease of doing business in Nigeria. Now, the Nigeria Startup Act, signed into law on October 19, 2022, signals the government's commitment, followed by the Business Facilitation Miscellaneous Provisions Bill 2022. That was also in February this year. The Nigerian Startup Act project is a joint initiative by the Nigerian tech startup ecosystem and the Presidency to harness the potential of Nigeria's digital economy through co-created regulations. Well, with me on the show today, I introduced him earlier. He's a lawyer and a manager. He's with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mr. Emmanuel Akpeme, to do an overview of these two acts. It's good to have you in the studio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tolu. It's always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Now, there's been a lot of changes, of course, in the regulatory environment. You agree with me, and I like that we're having this chat towards the end of the year. Can you give a brief of some of this overview of these regulations of laws in the past 1 year?
Thank you very much, Tolu. So 2023 has indeed been 1 year that I can say there have been a lot of regulatory changes and different regulations have really come up in this particular year. First of all, we saw the Finance Act, right? Yes. Finance Act is one constant that we saw that brought us a lot of changes. Then in the course of the year, we also saw the Business Facilitation Act that came in to promote ease of doing businesses. And then whilst we continued, we saw the different portions of the Startup Act, right? The Nigerian Startup Act coming in and as in fully being, even though it was passed last year, we saw in the course of 2023 that some form of implementations were going on. And then the current government also passed the Nigerian Data Protection Act. And so it has really been a great one. And this year, back to back, we saw different regulations in the space.
Interesting. You just mentioned the Startup Act, and there was a lot of buzz around that because I remember I had discussions. I had guys in the tech space to speak so much about this. That was when it was passed. But what's the update concerning the Startup Act?
Tolu, I remember vividly. It was just like yesterday. Yeah. About almost over a year ago, right? I was here to analyze the Nigerian Startup Act. I remember so well. So when the Nigerian Startup Act was established or was enacted, there was a lot of expectations, increased hope from the tech space and from different startups. We are so happy that, yes, after the long years, we now have a law that is going to support and aid the tech startups in Nigeria. But this is over a year, and we have not even seen one of the tech startups that have been labeled. Because the Act actually mentioned that there's going to be a labeling process. Okay. But till today, as I speak with you, I'm not aware of any tech startup that has been labeled to start enjoying some of those incentives, both the tax and fiscal incentives, both the access to funding and all that. And as we speak again, Tolu, Nigeria that has really been number one in attracting foreign direct investment in the tech startup space. Yes. The half-year report for 2023 saw Nigeria going down number 4 behind countries like Egypt, countries like Kenya, countries like South Africa. It is not. I know that the current Minister of Communication, Innovation and Digital Economy is a round peg in a round hole. Maybe there are things that they are doing at the back end, behind the scene, that we'll start seeing.
I think so. I should think so.
But it is important because the world is really looking at Nigeria to see what we said we would do. Are we really doing it? And let it not just be like what it is in Nigeria to say, though we have the laws, but the implementation is not
always
there.
An issue.
So, but I think more to come from that.
Another one that received applause is the Business Facilitation Act. I actually had Dr. Jumoke Oduwole to speak to us around this, and it made real sense. But what would you say? Or would you say this has achieved its objectives in any way?
Thank you very much, Tolu. Again, the Business Facilitation Act, if you recall, it was sometime around February or March this year, it was enacted into law. And one of the major objectives was to promote ease of doing business in Nigeria and also for transparency amongst the regulators in Nigeria. Then it also amended about 21 laws. So in terms of amending the 21 laws, yes, those laws stand amended. But when you talk about Business Facilitation Act, what comes to mind is the ease of doing business. Then the question then will be, has the ease of doing business improved in Nigeria?
That is it. Apart from states like, I think Lagos did a bit well. I think one state from I think Gombe. Also, I saw those states that I saw the ratings.
Yes.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So there are some operational challenges in terms of whether it has improved or not. And I'll give you an example.
Please go ahead.
For example, the provision of the law says if an individual, a citizen, someone applies for example, for a license or for something, and it is not granted within a particular number, within the number of days that the MDA had already stated, that person can write to the minister, and after a particular number of days, it will be deemed approved. Now, Tolu, apply this to your passport, that you apply for the renewal of your passport, and after a number of time, it wasn't approved. Then you write to the minister, and after some time, even though you didn't get anything, then you now deem it approved. Will you carry the letter you have written and staple to your expired passport and then go to embassies and say, this is my passport? So some of these things operationally may not see the light of day. And again, secondly is when you start writing, before you know, you are blacklisted by the regulators. And that's all, you want to report me. You are reporting me. And that is, I can tell you boldly, between when the Business Facilitation Act was enacted and today, I'm not aware of any person who had, after, are we going to say that people have not applied and they have not been, the application date has not expired, exceeded, but they will to go and start taking it up ahead because they don't want to be seen as reporting MDs and all that. So I think we should look into the Business Facilitation Act, and the major thing is about the people. So no matter how we change the law, amend the law, make the law to be there, if the mindset of people has not changed, then we are still going back to the starting point. And so there should be consequence for bad behavior. So when there's an application, I like what the minister is doing regarding the turnaround time for passport issuance and all that.
I enjoy that. I enjoy that one. I give the minister props. I got my passport very fast, very fast.
Thank you so much.
So I need to acknowledge that.
So he's doing great. So this needs to be replicated in other MDAs so that we'll start seeing all this. And where people have found one thing, then the stick should be to be used against them.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, there was also a notice from Corporate Affairs Commission sometime on minimum paid up capital for companies with foreign participation. Now, of course, mixed reactions followed this development. But tell us, what exactly happened?
Okay, thank you. That happened, I think, about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Right? And so for that, I think it is important we just make it clear for the viewers out there, right? Because the Ministry of Interior, by virtue of the Nigerian Immigration Act and the immigration regulations, they are vested with the power to actually regulate businesses that have foreign participation. That is companies that have foreigners as part of their shareholding, right? Now, this particular ministry had issued a handbook in the past, and that handbook stated that if you are a company and you have foreigners as part of your shareholders, that your minimum share capital should be 10 million. But last year, around October, November, they sent out a revised handbook. And in that revised handbook, they mentioned that if you have a company that you want to register already in Nigeria, that you must have a share capital, paid up share capital of 100 million. So the Corporate Affairs Commission was only notifying the public of this particular revised handbook that the Ministry of Interior had issued since last year, because if you notice, the Ministry of Interior has almost started implementing it, telling companies that are seeking for business permits from them to operate in Nigeria because they have foreign participation to increase their share capital. So the Corporate Affairs Commission was only notifying the public about this handbook. Now, immediately they released it, I think about 1 or 2 days or so, they also sent out another notice asking the public to disregard it. But what I will say, in my own view, is that it is important that even the Ministry of Interior look into that particular handbook that has revised the share capital for companies with foreign participation from 10 million to 100 million. Because as we are currently, we are trying to attract foreign direct investment.
Yes.
And asking those coming in to say you must bring in 100 million into the country might be like a repellent or might not be an incentive for them to come in. And again, if we must stick to that, there may be a sort of saying, okay, categorization of companies. If you're into manufacturing, if you're into production, if you're into consulting, because if you say all companies that have foreign participation should have 100 million or bring in 100 million, then it might impact some other companies that are just small, coming to do maybe consulting, right? So say they should start bringing in 100 million. And then there's need for clarity. When you say paid up capital of 100 million, are you saying that the capital should just be increased to 100 million naira and stamp duties paid on it? Or are you saying they must import 100 million naira into the country? So there is need for that clarity from the ministry and also from CSA, so that both regulator or both agencies must be seen to be speaking the same points.
And it's very important for investors. They always like to be straight, know where they are headed, and know what works for them. Another thing in the tax and regulatory space, it's the suspension of VAT on diesel, automotive gas oil, some call diesel. But what would be your view on the removal of this?
Yes, so I read it in the news. When the VAT modification order came up sometime in 2021,
yes,
diesel was not captured as one of those products that are exempted from VAT, right? But between 2021 and June this year, the FRS did not actually call for payment of VAT until this June this year, when they now released a publication that VAT will be charged on sale of diesel, right? Now, that caused a lot of hardship because, as you know, subsidy had been removed, and so the impact of that of payment of VAT on diesel also increased the costs and the effect on final consumers. And again, when diesel is high, there's this ripple effect on different categories of products, because the vehicles and all that need to take products and goods, right? It impacted the prices.
Yes.
Now, the government looked at it and said, okay, let us suspend it. There's a temporary suspension for 6 months. In my mind, I would say, because of the critical nature of diesel, it is preferred that there should even be a total removal of VAT on diesel, because it has a ripple impact on the economy. So the government should look into it to consider it. And the government has the power. The VAT Act empowers the Minister of Finance to issue an order, right, that will amend the schedule that has the products in the VAT Act that are exempted. So the minister can exercise that power by totally removing it, just to alleviate the economic hardship that is facing Nigerians today.
A lot in the plate. But it's the end of the year, so we must always ask this question. What is the outlook for the entire space? What is your projection for 2024?
For me, 2024, we will experience even more regulatory changes than we had in 2023. The reason why I say this is, as we speak, the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Reforms and reforms and tax incentives, they have been having a whole lot of stakeholders engagements, beginning from November up to date, right? They have been having, in fact, currently they are going to meet subnationals. Now, in 2024, we will see so much of this execution, implementation of the inputs from the stakeholders. And so the business space should just gear up for some regulatory changes that I believe will be in favor of businesses, because this particular committee is meeting with different stakeholders to ensure that the heart cry, what the stakeholders really need, they are being implemented. So let us really look out for different regulatory changes in 2024 that will help or aid our businesses in Nigeria.
And how a led committee, a lot is expected from that committee to support government. What are you looking at from that space?
Yes, that is, they are going to have great input, because from the interactions they've been having with stakeholders, they've met with market women, they've met with farmers, they've met with different people that currently they're meeting with subnationals, governors, and the likes. So we're expecting that they will collate all the inputs from these stakeholders and then advise the government appropriately that will make our business environment better off than it is today.
I must appreciate you so much for your time. Mr. Emmanuel Akpeme is a lawyer and manager with PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thank you so much. Let me get that handshake, and I know we will see in 2024, safe and sound.
Thank you so much. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a great and happy New Year. Thank you so much.
I wish you the same. Thank you. Well, let's go on another